Good morning, esteemed guests and participants from around the globe. We welcome you to our today's webinar on BRSR code and value chain disclosures, challenges and solutions for comprehensive reporting, organized by the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board. I am the secretary to the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board, CA Shweta Goyal. We are privileged to host this webinar today. We would like to welcome CA Mayank Agarwal ji, the Secretary of Jhansi branch of CIRC of ICAI, our CA Achit Agarwal ji, Chairman Jhansi branch of CIRC of ICAI, and our guest speaker of today, CA Sushil Sharma ji. This session aims to develop deep into the critical aspects of sustainability reporting that are shaping the corporate landscape today. Sustainability reporting isn't just about compliance anymore, it's about transparency, accountability, and driving positive impact throughout the value chain. Today, we will delve into the key aspects of the BRSR code framework and tackle the complexities and strategies for effectively disclosing value chain impacts. Our esteemed expert will guide us through the practical insights and sharing their experience and knowledge to help you navigate the challenges of comprehensive reporting. Let's begin our journey into the sustainability business practices by today's webinar. Now we just request CA Mayank Agarwal ji to introduce our guest speaker of today. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to everyone present. CA Sushil Sharma, sir, is the founder and managing director of Strategem, a global leader in capacity building and talent management. With 22 years of experience in design, consulting, and teaching, he is an expert in sustainability frameworks like SASB, TCFD, and GRI. An IIM Bangalore MBA graduate and a chartered accountant, Sushil sir collaborates with leading rating companies and is a respected author and a speaker in his field. I now request ma'am to please take over.
Welcome, sir. Sushil sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayank. Thank you for your kind words.
So we can start the session.
We can start the session? Okay, very good. A very good morning to all the participants that are present. We are going to discuss two distinct things. One is the core, BRSR core, and the other is value chain related reporting. Okay. Now, value chain reporting, together with certain other methods of analyzing businesses, is the most poorly understood, but the most important part of the entire story. Okay, entire story. So two distinct parts. First, what is core? And we will stick only to core, which are those some 9 items which are now added. What are the complexities in that? Has SEBI made our life easier or tougher? And I would submit to the forum that as chartered accountants and consultants, anything that the regulator makes tougher is good for us. Otherwise, for instance, this morning, we wouldn't be having a session on BRSR core. If it was so easy and so simple, then you don't need Sushil Sharma, right? Or indeed, the vast community of chartered accountants. So whenever a regulator makes things slightly more complex than it needs to be, we all talk about it. They could have done it simpler and all that, but let's be realistic. But then in this forum, we will look at it holistically, academically, that what is core about, what are the challenges in core, and how core applies. So now I'm going to share the screen, and tech support will immediately say if the sharing is not successful, so that I can get it right. I'm going to share my screen now. Actually, I prefer to just share my, I prefer to share my desktop. Okay. So here's my, are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
SEBI's BRSR agenda, right? So just pay attention to the right-hand side of this screen. Those of you who know me from before know exactly what this is. This is the free-to-air, use freely platform called BRSR Walk. The I request the institute to make available the address, which I will just put in the chat group. People should use and benefit. Okay, and this will help you also with your when you are sitting in front of your client or anybody asks you any question, you can directly access this. Okay, you can ignore all the things that are around the heart of this product. So you can see here SEBI's current agenda. Now that current agenda keeps going through whatever it goes through, but when you look into this, 2021 was voluntary filing, 22-23 was the first mandatory year for top 1000, 23-24 just gone by has a mandatory filing for top 1000, which is the same as previous year, but adds BRSR core for the top 150 companies, top 150 again by market capitalization. Now from 20, that is so the current financial year now 2024-25, for which the reporting season will begin in the next year after 31st of March. This core and assurance requirement extends to 250. Okay. And then you can see over there value chain plus assurance. Okay. So in the first year, there is no assurance in that value chain column. There is no assurance. It's only top 250 have to also cover their value chain. And then the next following year, they have put limited assurance. Now, assurance is a topic by itself, which I will cover very briefly at the end of the discussion on core. Okay. And if I fail to, then somebody should just say, hey, Sushil, you forgot. Okay. Now, when I look into this, you can see here this column is BRSR core. First column is basic. No. First column is financial years. Second column is basic. Third column is plus core and assurance. Fourth column is value chain plus assurance. Now, I'm going to immediately switch to the SEBI circular in this regard. Okay. Keep in mind, there is no use of me reading out SEBI circular to you. All of you are completely competent to read it yourselves, right? So that's not the goal for me to switch to the SEBI circular. Now, let me just see. I am on share screen. So whatever I call up, it should be quite easy for you to see that also. First, I want to call up the SEBI circular. Now, the SEBI circular, this is the, okay, there is a circular. What does that circular say? This is what that circular says. It says we are adding a BRSR core framework. And then the table, what I showed you over there. There are lots of words over here. We don't want to. So this is the table which we have developed and put in that other screen in the BRSR walk over here so that it is, gives you a picture of the evolution. But if you just look into this, then they're talking about value chain. Here you can see it says that value chain shall encompass upstream and downstream. We will understand what upstream and downstream exactly means, comprising 75% of the purchases. Now, SEBI has opened a new discussion line saying 2% by value or some such. I don't go into merits and demerits of what SEBI is proposing. Definitely not in seminars like this. I mostly restrict myself to what SEBI has already stated. So in the event that any client asks, How should we plan for what SEBI is going to do? That's a different topic. Okay. Here we are not in that. So there is this. And then of course SEBI has gone and done this major disfavor to chartered accountants. The assurance provider should have the necessary expertise for undertaking reasonable assurance, and they should put a comma and say such expertise is currently available only with members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. The CA Institute is not going to keep quiet. We will militate on that, but will we be successful? Maybe they can add company secretaries or something like that. But this is like, I can go to anyone. Okay. Like I said, assurance is a different can of worms. I'll come to that towards the end of the part on the core. Now, when I go through the circular, it says there is an annex. Where is that annex referred to? Somewhere there is a reference to an annex. Okay. That annex looks like this. That annex looks like this. Okay. Now, what have they done in this annex? There is a serial number column. This serial number has no reference to the total BRSR template. It is serial number for items appearing in this document. It is not the serial number. Now, let me make it as large as possible. Remove the thumbnail.
Sir, can we stop for a minute?
Yes, please.
Yeah, can we stop for a minute for the vice chairman has joined?
Yes, please. I will just, do I have to do anything or you will just?
No, just
do I do a stop share? Do I do a stop share?
Yeah. No issue. No issue, sir.
Achha, anyway, I'm done. Yes, Anuj Goyal ji, namaskar. I hope you are fine. What a pleasure to see you. Please.
Thank you, sir.
Please,
so nice. Sir.
Please, sir.
Sir, we request Achin, Chairman, Jhansi branch of CIRC to introduce our Vice Chairman of Sustainability Reporting Standards Group.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It has been again my pleasure to introduce Anuj Goyal, sir, straight third time in a week. So, CA Dr. Anuj Goyal, sir, is a Central Council member of ICI and Vice Chairman of the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board. He also serves as a Chairman of the Ethical Standard Board, the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, and the Publication and CDS Directorate. He has also served as Chairman of the Ghaziabad chapter of the ICI and ICMA. With an extraordinary tenure of 17 years in the Central Council, 3 years in the Regional Council, and 6 years in the branch, including Chairman of the CIRC and various ICI Central Committees, member of the Editorial Board, and more, he has made significant contribution to the profession. With vast experience exceeding 30 years and the wealth of knowledge, his contribution in the field of research and development have always been remarkable. He is a well-known speaker on various topics and also serves as a visiting faculty member at various institutions. Additionally, he has worked as editor-in-chief and editor of various publications of professional interest. I heartily welcome Anuj Goyal, sir, to the webinar. Anuj Goyal, sir, please.
Thank you very much, CA Anchit Agrawal ji, our honorable chairperson of Jhansi branch and honorable event enabler. We are having Sushil Sharma sir, our very, very prominent resource person, helping us out in the best possible manner for the cause of the profession. We are really grateful, really indebted, Sushil Sharma sir. And of course, we are having team of the Sustainability Reporting Standard Board led by Sweta Goyal ji and all other team members present here. And all the respective reviewers from each and every part of the country, outside country, CA Mayank Agarwal ji, Secretary Jhansi branch, and of course we are having CA Pradeep Goyal ji, our past chairman, Lucknow branch present here. And friends, we are very well aware that as far as this BRSR core and value chain disclosure is concerned, there are a lot of challenges, and of course Sushil Sharma ji is having the solutions for comprehensive reporting. And I'm quite confident that when we are having a very, very prominent resource person on this very, very important topic, I think we will be certainly having the best of the knowledge. And friends, in recent years, the importance of environmental, social, and governance (ESG) practices has surged globally. becoming a focal point for businesses and stakeholders uh, uh, as companies navigate the complexities of the modern business environment. The need of transparency and accountability in ESG practices has never been more critical. Today, stakeholders expect clear, reliable disclosures that not only reflect on organizations' commitment to sustainability, but also provide insight into its broader impact across the entire value chain. Today's webinar will guide you through understanding the specific requirements of the BRSR code with a special focus on value chain disclosures. We aim to equip you with the knowledge and strategies needed to effectively integrate these elements into your organization's sustainability reporting, overcoming challenges, and seizing opportunities along the way. And of course, we are having a very, very prominent resource person, Sushil Sharma ji, and we are really grateful to Sushil ji, Anchit Ajwal ji, Chairperson Jhansi Branch, Mayank Ajwal ji, Secretary Jhansi Branch, and I am quite confident that all the participants will be interacting so that in the best possible manner, we will be in a position to respond to the queries. Sushil Sharma ji is the very, very prominent resource person. We are having Chindu Chandran ma'am and Manish Goyal ji and all other respected officials of the SRSP along with Sweta Goyal ji. I'm really grateful to all the officers for being very, very active. And I once again welcome all our honorable members from each and every part of the world. May I request Pradeep Goyal ji, our honorable past chairman of Lucknow branch, to say a few words.
This is a very good program. I'm very happy to see and submit in this available. Very good program is going on in the and Anuj Goyal ji is very busy person, but he is available here. I'm very happy and thank you to you all.
Thank you, Honorable CA Pradeep Goyal ji, past chairman Lucknow branch. I will request Sushil Sharma ji to continue with the deliveries. A very, very big round of applause to Sushil. Over to Sushil Sharma sir. Sir, you are on mute. You are on mute, sir.
Yes, let me go back to thank you so much. Very kind words for the CA Institute and any chartered accountant anywhere in the world. Sushil Sharma is always available. And I can extend that, keeping the sentiments that Mr. Anuj Goyal has expressed. Please feel free in any way if you think that I can help you in enhancing your practice or opening a new practice window, or you're a working chartered accountant professionally employed who needs some assistance, more than happy. Okay. Anything to make chartered accountants look good from my side. Okay. So let me go back to where we were. We were here. So here is this, which column 1 says serial number, which is no, you can ignore it. It's got some 9 items and it is the serial number for this document. Okay. Then you have a cross reference, the last column, cross reference to BRSR. I hope this is visible large enough. Let me try make it to the limits of, that is the limit, yeah. Okay. So if anybody needs to focus on any one thing in a very deeply focused way, you please ask me. I will go to the area where you want the focus and expand the screen. Okay. This last one tells you where this item appears in the BRSR report format. Like it says here for this greenhouse gas thing, it says principle 6, question 7 of essential indicators. All these line items. So there is a second column called attribute. Under that attribute, there is more than one thing. Like greenhouse gas is one item. Under that, there are 3 things. First thing, which is called parameter here, is called total scope 1 emissions. Second thing is called total scope 2 emissions. Third thing is called GHG emission intensity scope 1 and 2. Okay. Now, all three of these new requirements fit under Principle 6, Question 7, as shown in the last column. Data and assurance approach. I'm sure Sustainability Standards Board will hopefully run a very particular technical program on data and assurance, data approach. Assurance approach is separate topic, but data approach. And I know there are other similar people who are more capable and qualified than me to talk on that, but I can include myself in that list, but at the bottom of the list. So data, I'm not going to get into data. And let me share for the benefit of all of you, this is one of the defining complexities of sustainability reporting. Financial reporting comes from a broadly single system. There's an accounting system which generates an output. If that system's integrity, maker, checker, and other controls are not compromised, you can rely on those numbers, right? As being at least the first version of truth. Then you have to do what you have to do as an auditor, but that much, right? And if my memory serves me right, and I'm not the best chartered accountant in such matters, but other than the valuation of inventory, and then of course intangibles, you don't have any major catastrophe when you take the printout from the accounting system. But sustainability reporting is non-financial reporting. And in core, little bit of financial got added back. Otherwise, it's fundamentally non-financial reporting. And if you look into non-financial reporting, different types of data, each has its own measurement and its own metric. Like, for example, emissions is measured in carbon dioxide equivalents. And if you look into, and in that BRSR walk, all these technical terms have small explainers here and there. So the BRSR walk is really to help you learn, grasp a few things without losing your way while doing study. That's the other feature. So lots and lots of different measurements. Somewhere it is kilojoule, somewhere it is metric ton, somewhere it is percentage recycled, somewhere it is a derived number like percentage recycled, somewhere it is carbon dioxide equivalents, somewhere it is number of people, whereas in financial it is only rupees in INR, finished, end of story. So this complexity is there. So we cannot actually do justice to that column over there called data and assurance approach. Okay. Now, so they have added certain number of things, 9 things they have added. First is on greenhouse gas emissions. Second is on water. Third is on energy. Fourth is on embracing circularity, which has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then this 8th thing, and then a 9th thing, and then a 10th thing, and then an 11th thing, and a 12th thing. So 12 things have been added in this waste. All of them are in 6.9. All of them are in 6.9. Yeah. And then they've added, then in serial number 5, you have on employees. There are 2 things they have added. They are in 3.1C. You can see over there. Okay. And then they have added 6 in serial number 6, which is gender diversity. They've added 2 items, out of which the first item is a financial number. Okay. And then in 7, they have added inclusive development, in which there are 2 items, percentage sourced from local input material sourced from following sources, directly sourced from MSME. Okay. Somewhere else they already have what have you taken from local community. So here they have added MSME particularly, and then job creation in smaller towns. Then 8 is fairness in engaging with customer supplier. Over here, there are two items which have been added. One is instances involving breach of data. And second is number of days account payable. This number of days account payable is the thing chartered accountants can be very happy with. Why? Because look into second last column, check in financial statements. That's it. That is something we understand. So uh, that doesn't require any major thought. But please, if I was to scroll this one only, fairness in engaging with customers and suppliers. Principle 9.7, the first line item is related to customers, 9.7. The second line item, number of days of account payable, is related to ethics and fairness, principle 1, question 8. Otherwise, if you see most of them, they are in the same area. But here there are different areas. Okay. And then there is something more in open. Then last item, openness of business. There is concentration of purchases. And under concentration of purchases, they have given so many subcategories, right? All of them are under principle 1, which is ethics and inclusivity. And the question number is 9. So this is a very useful annexure which tells us what are the changes. Now come back to the format itself. And the format is where we have the pain. The pain in the format is, hold on, this revised BRSR format. This revised BRSR format, which accompanies that circular and that annexure, they have added. Now, when we go and look at what is core, what does it say over here? It says only top 150, top 250, and top 500, like that, column number 3. But what have they done here in this format? They have simply added it sequentially. The 9 things in that annexure which we were reviewing closely is spread all over the BRSR format. And it does not apply to 750 companies. To 750 companies, these 9 things, which 9 things? These 9 things don't apply. But while looking into this, can you make out which don't apply? You cannot make out which are those which don't apply. It's all very well for the top companies. They just have to fill all this. But for the company which is not covered by core in the particular year, it is not at all mentioned over here as a separate item. It could have been, I don't know, it could have been placed at the end saying core additional. And over next year or year after that, integrate it and say, now everyone is covered. Now from this year, this is the new format. See, concentration of sales is mentioned over here. If you are not in top 250 for financial year ending 2025, this does not apply to you. But they have mixed it and created a situation. So then what does a guy like me do who has to build a walk which is comprehensive? What I have to do is I hope you can see this Excel. Yeah. There is a renumbering. See here, when I go into section A, so if you click this start exploring over here, it will take into the BRSR. And left-hand side is for people who like to learn via infographics. And right-hand side is for people who want to see that everything is covered. This 14 and 15 on assurance is added in the core. It is added in the core. Meaning when you go into this document over here, which is data and assurance approach, that assurance approach got captured into A2, 14 and 15. That means everything after this item number 15 got renumbered, full renumbering. So you will see in my Excel, what is the original. Let me make this Excel also as visible as possible. View, don't want ribbon, don't want formula. Okay, so now you can see here assurance is a new. All that is purple and all have to be renumbered that follow that. And this accounts payable is fitted over here at the end of principle 1. And then luckily that is the last item over there. Yeah. And then it is over here, this one. Yeah. And then it is one over here. This is the data breach instances. This is job creation. This is openness in doing business. This is accounts payable. This is your assurance related. Okay. So they have scattered it all over. Now, not just they scattered it all over, all these are called essential. So when you have gone through BRSR, you may have noticed, and by now many people will be very well aware, an essential indicator is something that everyone is expected to do. A leading indicator is one that those who want to be in leadership position on compliance can adopt. If they don't feel it, it's no big deal. Okay? If they don't feel it, it is no big deal. But if it is essential, it should be done. Now, when you call it essential, therefore it should be done, and I go into the revised document, now you see here, this everything is essential. Right? This is in the coming under the essential category. Go to the top, essential. Can you see here? It says essential. And then down here, I have this item saying concentration of purchases. It's not the most user-friendly way of republishing the format after your July 23 circular. So now when we go into the details of this, we will look into the details of this. One good thing is this document, this document. It gives much more guidance than your generic guidance which came with the first document. Okay. So now we can go, we'll go line item by line item here. And then I'll show you the same items in the walk so that you can look at it there as well. Okay. As all, I will cover this data, but only briefly. Okay. Because, and I'll tell you why. Okay. So the first item where they've added stuff is greenhouse gas, scope 1, scope 2, and then intensity. So let me tell you regarding scope 1 and 2. Many of you may already be aware. And my favorite way to remember scope 1, 2, 3. This scope 1, 2, 3 is relating only to this carbon dioxide equivalent emissions. It does not apply to various other line items. It is actually originating in the greenhouse gas protocol. This greenhouse gas protocol is a story by itself. In that scope 1, 2, 3 is mentioned. Okay. Very clearly, what is scope 1? What I create as emissions. My factory, my plant, my production process, the things that I own, operate, run. When you go into GHG protocol, there is a difference between own and operate. As per global practice, if a large company has a contract manufacturer, which is very much the trend, like, I mean, from my banking years, I can tell you that Colgate used to outsource the entire story. And Coca-Cola bottlers are owned separately and they do the bottling for the magic formula, which is owned by Coke. So in GHG, in emissions alone, there is a concept of reporting boundary, which is present in BRSR, but the BRSR reporting boundary is different from the emissions reporting boundary. in the emissions reporting boundary, company can take responsibility for report facilities that it controls. Okay. And so there's a nice, beautiful chart that I've made of how the control flows. So how to determine reporting boundary. This is one part of the story. This part of the story is relevant when we go into value chain, which is the other part of today's talk. Now, scope 1 is all that I emit, all the emissions from I. And scope 2 is all the emissions I buy. I buy. But this buy is only electricity buy. How much emissions did you purchase via your purchase of electricity? If you don't purchase electricity, you have a captive power plant, that is I. Captive, no? My power plant, I. If it is purchased electricity, it is buy. And electricity companies, and this is the global practice in the West, have started to tell, and GAG protocol, those of you who are following will know this, have started to tell that the electricity that I supply to you, 30% of it is green, 70% of it is thermal. So that your emissions become 30% free of emissions. Now, if you are for 30% free of emissions, but you're consuming 100 units of power, that will get reflected in this item called emissions intensity. And I will cover emissions intensity separately when we come to this line item. Back to 1, 2, 3. All that I generate as emissions, by the emissions of the electricity that I buy, the electricity company should be able to tell me what is the percentage of my electricity which is green and which is not green. And if it is not green, then what is the imputed value of emissions? Okay. Now, emissions measurement is a technical field. And this is the challenge that chartered accountants as practitioners or industry faces, but for a practicing CA, it's not a challenge. So what I have done is put together who are all the different good qualified people, so that anyone that approaches me and says, hey, I want emissions measured, I have a reference for them, and they can use that, and they can take multiple references and see who they want to use or whatever that is. But there's nothing to be, overawed or worry about or feel paralyzed by this thing of we as a community chartered accountants needing technical experts for some of these measurement dimensions. That also means that I don't need to know this measurement dimension to the nth degree and kill myself, because it's a technical field and there's a technical guy and he's going to produce it. Now we'll come back to this from the assurance perspective, but park it there. So I then buy, and in Europe now the electricity supplier is able to say that in this district the mix of energy is this, in that district the mix of energy is that, or to all my customers I can't tell you who, what, why, but all my energy, this is the mix. And then NextEra, the world leader in energy, entire energy supply of theirs is renewable only. Okay, and they are one of the top rated, from a green ratings perspective, one of the top rated firms in the world. Okay, all their energy is green. Okay, so that's a direction in which India has to evolve. Okay, now third one, scope 3. I buy. 3 is supply. End customers. We'll keep end customers in small italics for our memory purpose. Scope 1, I buy supply. It rhymes, I buy supply. End customers. I buy supply. Scope 1, 2, 3. So scope 1, scope 2, and then scope Scope 3 is completely optional. It's a leading indicator. Okay. When we go into value chain analysis, we will look at this scope 3 again. Okay. Now comes emission intensity. So this word intensity, wherever it appears, and it appears in a number of places in BRSR, this word intensity is an extremely important dimension of all measured items. Intensity means whatever be the measurement per unit of revenue or unit of production. Okay. That is what intensity means. So if you go to the right-hand side, third column, that second last column, there is some guidance. It says, take the total revenue from operations and put it in the denominator. Okay. Then it bolts this googly regarding PPP. So what is the USD INR conversion of conversion rate to be applied to compare Indian emissions to other country emissions will come from the exchange rate for purchasing power parity given by World Bank. I have lots of problems with it, but forget about it. Do the calculation. Focus on the intensity. Okay. I really don't want to get into this side conversation on what this PPP is trying to do. Okay. But crux of forget about the PPP part, focus on what does emission intensity mean. So in IFRS sustainability, which is the standard for most of the world barring India, Japan, USA, because they don't follow international accounting standards. We follow international accounting standards, the Indian configuration of that, but we don't follow international sustainability standards. In international sustainability standards, this emissions intensity is the number, this word intensity, the same principle, emissions divided by turnover, so that you can report emissions per crore of turnover or per million of turnover or per lakh of turnover or whatever. Water per crore, waste per crore, recycling per crore. When you convert it to that number per crore, this company becomes comparable with other companies, bearing in mind that the purpose of all disclosure, financial or non-financial, is to enable the decision usefulness to the end user of these statements. So when you publish a sustainability report, a BRSR report, to all those of you who currently do it as a compliance activity, there is a pathway you can adopt, having put the effort into building the BRSR report. There is a pathway you can adopt by which your stock price can increase. Your cost of borrowing can come down. But for those things, you'll have to contact me. There's only so much I can give away without worrying about how I will feed my family. Okay. Now, intensity allows me to compare one company in the industry to another company in the industry. This is point number one. Point number two, it allows me to compare industries with other industries. Which industry is more emission intense, water intense, waste intense than which other industry? Right? I'm going to be publishing research on this because I have successfully collected all the BRSR data of last year and this year for all the companies that have published. Current year is running at around 800 companies have submitted data. All the data is gathered and in analytics form. Work is going on, but it's not time which is limited. Energy is limited. Time is 24 hours a day. Okay, but you need 8 hours of sleep, etc. So that is what this intensity word is. Intensity allows comparability. Comparability between companies, between industries, and that is the way that people are going to judge you. So when you produce a BRSR report and I'm looking at, whoa, so much of data, I'm just going to directly go pick up emissions intensity. That's the number I want. How do I make out? I can't make out whether 1 million tons of carbon dioxide is more or less than my neighbor's 2 million tons. My 1 million ton looks less, but my turnover is 1/10. He produces 2 million tons of carbon dioxide, but his turnover is 10 times. Answer is obvious. That covers point number one. I guess in this format, I know that it ends up that the questions, okay. So there is the question. From participant, can you please tell us how we disclose the emission intensity? First, you calculate scope 1, then you calculate scope 2, then you add the 2. It is so many million tons in carbon dioxide equivalent, whatever that number is. Now you take your turnover. Use the conversion rate from the World Bank site. You want me to show you this? Let's do this live. USD, INR, USD, INR conversion rate for PPP. Don't go to any random third-party sites, okay, and get into trouble. You have to go for the World Bank. Can you see here? World Bank open data. Ta-tang. I hope I can find what is the conversion factor for India. Where is it? Where is it? Here, see all the countries' conversion factors are given. What is this called? Most recent value. Yeah. So where is my US dollar? My US dollar is available over here. See, US dollar 1. Purchasing power parity, when we say dollar to rupee, that means dollar is treated as the center point of this calculation. 1 US dollar is how many India? As per exchange rate, it is 80 change. As per purchasing power parity, it is 20 change. So what will you do? You will convert your turnover to dollars. If you divide your turnover by 80, will you get a larger number? Or if you divide it by 20, you will get a larger number. If you divide it by 20, you will get a larger dollar number. Now you put your emission in the numerator and you put 20 rupees per dollar. You converted the revenue into dollar. You got a large dollar number. Your emission intensity will come down. If you use exchange rate to convert your dollar to rupee, your emission intensity will show it more. But if you report the emission intensity in rupees, you're in a good place. It will come down. The moment you want to convert to dollar, Government of India does not want independent researchers to use 80 rupees to convert an Indian company's emission intensity into dollar terms, so that when they compare an Indian garment manufacturer to an American garment manufacturer, if you use it as per purchasing power parity. So I will report an emission intensity which is already in dollar terms. So he will be taking dollar and comparing in dollar, and India will come out with a lower emission intensity. I hope that sufficiently answers your question. Search, by the way, while we are on that, search is a topic by itself. You know, when global sanctions happen, We actually we teach people how to search and make sure they go to the correct website and how to eliminate false positive, false negative. It's a topic of its own. I hope that sufficiently answered the question. In the event you feel that you wish to repeat the thing, you can ask always later. Now I go to total water. Again, waters are See, water is also metered. Electricity is also metered. This electricity metered goes down to energy footprint. But emissions is not metered. Emissions is calculated. When you go into that, you can see in this column, all these different types of emissions are listed. Okay. All these different types of emissions, the emissions measurement expert will do. And I'm working with them and I see them doing it and I'm quite fascinated. Okay. But this is to be measured, right? And it's a fairly large table where coal, natural gas, diesel, whatever are the sources of fuel. If there is a vehicle fleet in use, then what is the aging of those vehicles, and so on and so forth. One of the things that always gets a lot of interest is this item called fugitive emissions. Fugitive emission is, you know what? If you have a tank in which there is a gas, then naturally some of it escapes through some valve and something and something and something. It after some time, if you go and look, it used to be 100, now it is 90. That 10 got emitted by way of fugitive emissions. Okay. All these technicalities are there in the calculation methodology of the emissions measurement and certifications guy. And I had the good fortune, because if you go work and consulting alongside these guys, I had the good fortune to look at all the wealth of how these factors and multiplication. And he asks you so many questions of the type of vehicles. Actually, they just aggregate it into engine capacity and year. He will ask 5,000 questions, Tata, which brand, this, that, blah, 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 blah. It can be boiled down into vehicle cc year. That's it. Year has got an impact. The older the car, the more the emissions. Those of you who are working in the Euro carbon tax space, you know this. So water, same way, water as a meter. Luckily for us, water as a meter, and there's no emission story related to the meter. So the meter is the end of the story. Yet, we have clients who prefer to use a technical one. And here are things that practicing CAs should do is tell their clients after having finished everything, and then you see the water intensity. Now we already covered water intensity. Thanks to the query, we also covered how to do PPP conversion. And here is an additional consulting opportunity for a chartered accountant to say to the client, you know, your water intensity is higher than your neighbors. Your emission intensity is higher than your neighbors. I will bring a consultant who will help you bring your water intensity down. That is one of the things you do on the path to increasing the share price. But exactly how and all. Okay. Then water discharge. This is complex, right? Meters are for input and discharge. This is complex. And there are water, okay? Primary, secondary, and tertiary. And you should not release untreated water. Now, when the moment comes to provide assurance of this, that is a highly complex story for a certifying chartered accountant. Okay, I will cover that when we come to the end of this. Energy consumed, I think I have sufficiently talked about it when I did scope 1, 2, 3, and energy intensity, same story. However, if you go into the energy intensity, now see over here in the second last column, suddenly they have given you more guidance that the vehicles produced, it is company and sector specific. So for those who want to look at which is the metric, which is, for example, airline kilometers traveled, AKT, if I am not wrong, is the metric in the aviation industry. Like this, each industry has its own metric for calculating intensity. And don't tell your client this, don't tell any non-CA this, but if you go to the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board website and search by industry type, you can ascertain what should be the correct metric. The ISSB IFRSS has got that fundamentals of sustainability accounting credential, which yours truly has completed. It is a very good course because it sensitizes you to all these things that exist. Okay, it's not a technical course like company law or something like that. It's a thinking person's course. I found that study experience fascinating. Same way you can see here, okay, so that's for energy intensity. And now we know what is the importance of this word intensity. All these waste items are listed over here. The customer's ability to break down the waste into these different categories and then dispose them responsibly is significant. There are still people out there who don't know that how to dispose e-waste. So if you go in through BRSR walk, in the waste section, you'll find list of waste, people who pick up e-waste. Like this, for everything, there are people. And either you find them or you find me and I tell you, and then you tell your client and we all live happily ever after. Very, very important to me personally that clients think well of the chartered accountant so that they feel that the CA guided them to the maximum extent and they didn't really need to go anywhere else. Waste intensity, again, the same point, which is total waste generated divided by your revenue. Okay. Now, I mean, I don't know, it says from audited P&L. So are you going to do that first, finish the financial audit and then fill this? And then both have to be filled within the same time window and all that stuff. So it's a headache for auditors, but I don't practice as a CA, so whatever. That is all on category of waste. There are these different, and there is responsible way of disposing each of these. In India, biomedical waste is a huge issue. Practicing CA should target all the hospitals and clinics in their geography and say, Guy, do you know biomedical waste? And similarly, you will be surprised. There are some production processes which generate radioactive waste. And I've seen reports saying we got radioactive waste. I don't know what they do that they got radioactive waste, but it's not something weird which doesn't happen. Okay. Yeah, so I told you that in assurance, how they dispose wastewater is an issue. Where was that? Water discharge, right here. And where do they discharge it to? So if you're familiar with the BRSR report already, the question is asked, where are you discharging it to, right? And one of the things, the zero liquid discharge is also one of the points in the BRSR, where you reuse most of the water that you draw. So if you take 100 units of water for a process and then it comes out as an effluent and you treat and you are able to reuse 70 of that, that means the next time you will draw only 30 fresh units of water. Okay. And while we are doing this compliance reporting, the world is looking for more responsible businesses. Okay. And for those of you who have clients who are having export turnover, they think that BRSR doesn't apply to them, but already starting with the European carbon tax, all of them are facing questions from their customers. If you cannot give me water intensity report and water discharge report, I'm going to stop buying from you. So please sensitize your customers and start garnering the additional billing from them already. Okay. Embracing circularity, this is a complex topic. Okay. Now it's a topic fully for technical people, but let's just stick to plastic waste. If you throw out plastic, then how much of that plastic can you reuse? The technology guy will tell you the production manager will tell you some story about how the plastic that we use has to be this grade. And once you recycle it and reprocess it, it's chemical, it's a hydrocarbon, its composition changes so that it doesn't behave in the same way. So it's not suited for my production process, but it may be suited for some other production process in some other industry, and you can profitably sell it over there. But then do you go through that entire engineering exercise and document it and keep it and showcase it? Showcase it to whom? Long story. Showcase it why? Short story, share price and cost of borrowing. Yeah. You'll be surprised at how much construction and demolition waste all of Indian industry generates, including unlikely people like IT companies. But then when I stop to think about it, yep, they're all the time building new what is that? Campuses. E-waste is very hard to recycle. Mostly e-waste is precious metals in microscopic quantities are extracted from e-waste, and the plastic components are recycled. And many of us are ticking this checkbox by saying in the BRSR report that I give it to e-waste recycling firm. And then when you do value chain, this question will become crystal clear. You give it to a recycling dude, then what does he do? Does he put little children to sit and apply chemicals and take out the gold and the silver separately? Then that means you just transferred the problem, you didn't solve the problem, which means you should check with that guy how he does e-waste processing. Right? Now, if I'm an MSME and I'm doing e-waste disposal, my ability to check how he does the disposal is limited. But I'm ITC, I'm Unilever. The larger the company, the greater the expectation. Okay. Same is true of battery waste. I still, all of us must be seeing this as we drive around. We see kabaddi shops with hundreds of plastic bottles, tied together as if it's some decoration, hundreds of battery, then those old, that sell. You go to the automotive repair sector in your town, you'll see the chaos. Okay. But I was very happy to see on YouTube, you can see this aluminium. You see, this is one of the major features of recycling, which you must tell your clients. The cost and the energy intensity and starting from the sourcing to delivering raw aluminium to an industrial unit is way higher than if you recycled that aluminium. So recycling has certain technological issues. But if you spend some money on the technological issues, you will save some costs on the input side. Then you have to do the cost benefit analysis of that. This is called transition risk in the field of sustainability. And for these kind of transition projects, you can attract green finance. So you can take it up at a lower cost of funds, do it, increase the share price. Now, go on YouTube and see how Pepsi and Coke recycle the Coke tin. Now, when you throw, in my building society, the guys who come up to pick up all the waste, they will say, this is useless, this is useless, this is useless. Then that guy who comes to collect in the truck, you can see them carefully sorting it. This is India. In the Western world, they have 3 different bins. In Switzerland, they have 5 different bins for waste. And the municipality will kill you with with fines and penalties if you don't make the classification. And recently, I had occasion to visit a hospital. The Safai Karamchari came There were 3 bio waste, paper waste, wet waste. She brought one large bin and emptied all 3 into that one large bin and went. But this is India. That guy who picks up from the truck, he separates. Everything is sold. All these Amazon cartons which we are being inundated with, whole damn thing is recycled. Go on YouTube, see how aluminum cans are recycled. There's technology involved. You see the YouTube only to make this point that there is technology involved. There's a thin film of plastic in the inside. There is a paint on the outside. Even how that thin film of plastic came to be inside, on the inside is a YouTube story which is worth watching. Going forward, enhancing employee well-being, spending on measures towards well-being, cost incurred as a percentage of the total revenue of the company. This requires a tweak of the financial accounting. I don't know what happened afterward, because once I passed my CA exam, I passed it with such great difficulty, and after failing so many times that I just did not bother to turn and look. Is there another query? Is this the same query? I have the same query. Can you tell us how to disclose GHG emission intensity like adjusting to PPP? I will come to this at the end. There used to be something called, what did it used to be called? This accounting, integrated accounting, it used to be called. Costing, management accounting and financial accounting in the same system. I passed the paper and I forgot about it. But yeah, here is a reason to break down the general ledger differently and start capturing as certain expenses as towards the well-being of employees, and then that can be taken care. This is the tip given by SEBI for how to do the assurance. Totally different topic. I will come to that. Details of incidents. This is the measure lost time in injury frequency rate per 1 million. The moment the word per comes, it becomes an intensity point. Could you enlighten us? How would projection of sustainability reduce borrowing cost? Really appreciate you giving the examples. Yes, I will illuminate how. Okay. Lost time injury frequency rate. Let me finish this. I will cover that. So he's given you how to do it, but moment you say per, it becomes intensity. This means I can now compare the lost time injury, the global as per IFRSS. It's a different terminology, but anyway, something else it is. But it is another acronym. It is something similar to this only. So I can compare how much one company to another company in the same industry, which industry has more lost time due to injury than all other industries, and how does this comparability. So decision usefulness of the statement that you're producing. If I can leave that with you as the guiding principle for increasing stock price, how decision useful is your output will determine. And then, of course, you have to approach the people who use this for decision usefulness. Different story. Call me. No, I'm taking it as a joke. Please, nobody from the institute think that this guy is flogging his own stuff. I'm just keeping it conversational. Gender diversity. I've done significant amount of research with the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, on the data that we picked up from BRSR. How many people really harass? How many people really complain the harassment case? Is there a safe way for people to make their complaint, notwithstanding the Supreme Court's Vishaka thing, and then that getting incorporated into corporate practice and law? And how many of those complaints get redressed properly? And I can tell you, India's largest employers, the only company which had the maximum number of recorded complaints is, what is this question? That's a funny question. What is the, the largest employer has only in 2 digits number of complaints. Okay. And there are no pending complaints. Okay. So the Indian Institute of Management, the head of faculty for with whom I partnered to do this research wrote, so it was a report submitted by us to Government of India where this data is not very reassuring. Okay. Enable inclusive development. How much do you source from MSMEs? I think there is enough regulation on MSME and their bills have to be paid within some 30 days or 45 days. I'm not seeing a very big challenge in this reporting. Job creation in smaller towns. This is a very specific kind of thing which you have to push HR on, which is to say that if you have a plant in Jhansi, for example, then how many people from Jhansi did you recruit and employ in Jhansi? Or did you then tell them, chalo, next posting Bombay? But look, it is place of employment of the employees, which also means that you could take people in Bombay and bring them to Jhansi. I want to answer this question. Benefits, cost of well-being to be considered for the entire year or for employees, only for employees as on the last day of the year. Is it a P&L item or is it a balance sheet item? It's a P&L item. So then it will have to cover the entire period. That doesn't mean that the employee is still working with you. You spent it and that she went away or he went away is not relevant to the point. Just categorize a new general ledger or sub ledger and total all those benefit items and report it. Sir, regarding benefits like maternity, should we mention total female employees or just the female employee who availed the benefit? When you go into the BRSR report, it asks how many male, female in contract, in regular employment, etc. How many availed maternity leave and how many rejoined? Now, when it comes to the payment of benefits, this question is similar to the previous question. Payment once made, cost is for the period, end of story. But regarding the particular person and then who availed and what happened to her and all, that is already covered in basic BRSR where it says who took leave, who came back. By the way, the wording also allows father to take leave, paternal leave. Yeah, but that's a different story. Which method or process to be used to identify MSME purchases? Ask for the Udayam, no, it is, what is that certificate? Whatever that certificate is. MSME certificate of the suppliers. All those suppliers who produce the MSME certificate, what you purchase from them is all MSME purchases. If they don't have, please encourage them to go get. You may have, see, I love telling this story. My Dhobi, somehow he speaks English, something we got talking, and I was telling him about something MSME, and he said, I have got an MSME certificate. So please, if you have a laundry supplier in your company who happens to have an MSME certificate, then you can include that. And if it doesn't have an MSME certificate, please encourage him to get MSME certificate because they are giving MSME certificate to all and everyone. Then you can recategorize the purchase. Concentration of purchases done with trading houses, dealers, and related parties. These loans and advances and investment to related parties is not news to chartered accountants. It is already there. But concentration of purchases, that means any one particular party. So you have to do a value analysis. Who are the people from whom you purchased and are they the same legal entity? And you are able to answer this question. Okay. So when you go into my BRSR walk, it is already integrated with core. Your challenge is knowing which are the things which are core, right? So EI8 accounts payable is core. Other things are applicable to everyone. EI9 is core. EI8 is core. EI9 is core. This is the ethics index. Ethics index is decided not to work today. Ethics index is on chutti. Okay. Then in safe and sustainable product, are there any core items? So, reclaim product. See, this is the problem they have created for us. Now, reclaim product. Reclaim product is what? EI3. 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 P what? P2 EI3. P2 EI3. No, it is not a new item. P2 EI3 is an existing item. So I can directly go to the new item using my Excel. P8 EI5. So go here. Go to the index. Where is P8? Here is P8, inclusive, equitable. Click it. Local suppliers. P8 EI4. Local suppliers, right? This is the core, okay? And when you look into when you click into data widgets, this walk has one thing called slice dice, which gives you the SEBI circular for that line item. And if you click data widgets, it tells you what the format can look like to capture the data. Okay. So local supplier is separate and MSME is separate. Okay. Why is that categorized like this in our data widget product? Let me go into that item P8. Where is this one? Per purchase, it is a P84. It already had, as I mentioned to you, see, this is the beauty of how we have constructed the walk. It already had this line item directly from the district. And now they added the line item MSME. Okay. So that covers that particular line item, which is your inclusivity. So in this walk, the upper portion is just meant to give you a simple English language reading. But you're all technical people. In simple English language reading may not be your you may want to see the technical document, in which case you click slice dice and see the SEBI circular. This is just to help you simply understand. It's not a legal explanation. Your legal explanation will be available to you from the SEBI circular. Then the next item where I have a purple is in P9 EI7 data breaches. So I need to go back to the main home, which is on the left bottom, and pick up P9, which is consumer engagement, and look into data breach instances. So this is part of the core where data breach is unauthorized access, and they are asking how many instances of data breach. This is the data what SEBI requires you to provide regarding this line item. Okay. That EI7. 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 Here, data instant breaches. Yeah. Okay. The numbering error is here. Previously, it used to be leading indicator 5. Now it has been made EI7. So you can see here also we have given what is data breach, and it is not uniform for all industries, it says over here, which is true. And then we give some external, wherever we can help you to learn more, we have given that. Okay. Now I have completed your core and I have shown you how to find it. Regarding inclusive development, is there any distance criteria? No, sir, there is no distance criteria. Okay. Like for local purchase, is there a distance criteria because the location can extend to a large area? Yes, accepted from me that a location can be extending to a large area, but just take it as whatever is the the geographical footprint. Even if it is in many of the smaller location, even if it is a neighboring town, it's okay. Because when I do, so I have done this industrial map of India, all of India's cities, what are all the characteristics in each city. You will find very quickly beyond 2025 gone. India becomes very small. So in most states, you can't name more than 2 to 4 towns, apart from the capital city, which are large. Most. So Yes, you can, if you are beyond the top 20, you can go a little wider. It's the spirit that should be considered. There is no legal thing to it regarding the local purchase or job creation. Okay. So when we say job creation, no, one of the things is if you have a unit in a particular area, then what could be the employment of people from that area into that unit? It is not that you are in Jhansi, you recruit the guy in Jhansi and send all of them to Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Madras. Then, the purpose of what the regulator is trying to drive, as I can assume, is give them the local jobs and their local joy, So maybe some of the semi-skilled or lesser skilled and the work being done over here by Indian industry is fantastic, but it is a little weird also. So I invite you guys to go on Lallan Top and see the video, which is about 50-minute video, which he has done on a company called KG Denim, KG Textiles, which is based in Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu, where the entire workforce or majority of the workforce is coming from Orissa. And so what KG has done is, and what Kalinga Institute has done is, in partnership with KG, 1 crore of equipment KG has given. Kalinga has installed the equipment in their technical institute. They are picking up people from the local area, training them to use that equipment. Then they come all the way to interior Tamil Nadu on the Kerala border to take the job in Coimbatore. Okay. You have to look at India, and I tell you, trading houses are people that just are merchanting, buying and selling of the particular item. Dealers, dealerships, for example. If you remember the cough syrup scandal about a year ago, where Indian cough syrup and some children in Uganda died, the agent who supplied the active ingredient said, I import from XYZ country and supply to the cough syrup maker. I am not the maker. That's a trading house. Merchanting transaction, we call it. Okay. Now I'm going to go to value chain. Thank you for asking the questions. It is very, very beneficial. And I suppose I have to cover emission intensity. I'm still going to come back to it again. Okay. If that was a repeat question, that is. I have to share with you on value chain now. Now value, okay, now value chain. What is the value chain story? The value chain, to know the value chain story, I have to go home and I should go back to what is BRSR. Here you can see in the last column, value chain plus assurance for the top 250 and that. So what is the value chain story? And the value chain story is already present in most of the leading indicators. When you go into leading indicator, a lot of the value chain stuff is over there. What is value chain? Extremely important. Why is value chain extremely important? There are two reasons why value chain is extremely important. One, if the company has to mandatorily report, how deeply should it understand its value chain? Two, I am a chartered accountant and I want to increase my billing. My supplier, my customer is an MSME or a local company. And whom does he supply to? He may be supplying to one of the top 1,000. Or maybe he doesn't supply to the top 1,000. But if he improves his scores on the items which appear in the BRSR report, then your client becomes attractive supplier for Unilever or ITC to purchase from, or even to export. Those are where the opportunities are. Why? Because there is a McKinsey study that shows that for a large company, 70% of all its emissions, 70% of all the emissions come from the suppliers. Who are the suppliers? All businesses are effectively input, process, output. This is the value chain. This is the value chain. That's it. Input, process, output. Capital, material, labor are the input. And in this, the material is the one which we expand substantially. And labor, as the colleague friend who asked the questions regarding local employment, it's a labor. And capital, somebody asked the question, how will I get lower finance? I will tell you. And if I don't tell you, please remind me. So there are some complex manufacturing processes, simple manufacturing processes, service businesses, and Amazon. Does he manufacture anything that he supplies you? No, nothing. Does he even buy? Is he even a trading house? No, he is not even a trading house. He just provides warehousing facility. He keeps the things over there, and it's a pure platform business. You request, he delivers. Output are various products, services in the modern economy. We have to say that they deliver the experience. Okay, these are all modern jargon for in business management world. What do you make, sir, as a company? We deliver experiences. Are what is these experiences? You just sit with me and tell your family's desire of a chosen vacation, and we make it happen. We are not selling you air tickets. We are not doing hotel booking for you. We are not booking tours for you in the destination location. We are selling you the experience. Each of these contains ESG metrics, KPIs, key performance indicator, metrics, number. What number do you want? Emissions? Yes. Are there emissions in input? Yes. Are there emissions in process? Yes. Are there emissions in output? Yes. Yes. If there are no emissions in output, then how would you get emissions in input? I manufactured this. What was the emission intensity per phone? If you cannot, as a supplier, tell me what is the emission intensity per unit of product that I am buying from you, I will stop buying from you, because your lack of data on emissions intensity is affecting my ability to complete my sustainability report. So if I have two suppliers, one is giving the data, the other is not giving the data or unable to give the data, I will stop purchasing from that guy who cannot give the data, because he is impacting my cost of borrowing and my share price. And I will tell this guy, you are able to give me all this. Do me a favor, my friend, increase your capacity. I want to buy more from you. This is what you have to go and tell your MSME clients. Become the preferred supplier because you provide the ESG KPIs. There are multiple suppliers, and each supplier has his own value chain. You see, the guy giving me the input. Good example is auto ancillary forging. The forged metal component, which is being purchased by Tata Motors, is got its own value chain. He gets the raw or the sintered metal, he puts it through a process, he forms the forging. It has an emissions factor, right? And then what is my output? My output, somebody else is purchasing, it is going into his. Suppose I am a manufacturer of cardboard carton, that, that craft paper, I think it is called, the brown colored one. And I am supplying to Hindustan Unilever because they are packing the toothpaste tubes in cartons before sending it to CFA. My output, the carton, is Hindustan Unilever's input. And I should be in a position to give him the data. But also, if I am Apple iPhone and I am supplying iPhone to the customer, that is where extended producer responsibility comes and fits, which we will see. Scope. Okay. I think I already have it here. Meanwhile, somebody, I think, asked a couple of questions. Borrowing cost, yes, I will cover. Yes, all this is done. What is meant by trading house is done. Cost to the reported only for new jobs created during the year. It doesn't ask you the cost item on the new jobs. It asks you for the number of new jobs created. What will constitute? Yes, yes. I will show you the constitute. I will show you the value chain for a bank. I've done value chain analysis for most of the industries that are out there. It's a very important thing. Not now, not today, not for sustainability, but across most of the work. Anything, anyone calls you in for any kind of work, first thing you should do is business analysis, and value chain is only one of the techniques. So now scope 1, 2, 3. Scope 1 is what comes from my process. Okay. Ignore that, I already covered for you boundary. Scope 2 is own consumption of electricity by source. Okay. If you want, you can call it input. Electricity as an input, purchased input. Scope 3. Scope 3. I buy supply. Supplier input over here and customers output over there. Okay. So no, that should not be own consumption. The wording over there is completely wrong. Okay. It is not at all to do with electricity. It is to do with all supplies and all output. Now you know you cannot do now. I want to, okay. So let me also share with you. So this is the reason why company can and should know their value chains up. When you're buying from your supplier, you're buying emissions, you're buying water, you're buying waste, you're buying everything you're buying. Whatever he does accrues to you. This is like Valmiki. When, who was it? That guy, he said, I am not, Valmiki said, I am not the only sinner. My entire family is the sinner because they eat from my, whatever my sins that I'm doing and robbing people, they live on that. The wife said, I didn't know you do by killing. Under value chain principle, Valmiki is the supplier. Whatever he does is also applicable to the wife. So whatever your supplier does, which means how well do you know your supplier? Which means grading your suppliers. On what? On their ESG score. And this is the challenge for the big companies. They have to start grading their suppliers. But it is easy for a large company. You just call your supplier and say, do this or else, and he will do it. And I always flip that around to chartered accountants and say, tell your clients, you don't supply to Unilever, become supplier to Unilever. You already supply to Unilever, increase your share of Unilever's purchases from you. Trust me, the big boys will increase their purchases from those suppliers who help them look beautiful in the chain. Because this thing which SEBI is now saying that please give me the data from your value chain. And if your supplier does not have the data, then your supplier is the cause for your agony and your misery. And it becomes a motivating factor for you to change your supplier. Will all this cost money? Yes, it will cost money. But that cost will be lower than the indirect cost which we are paying by the damage to the earth. Who pays the price for the Wayanad landslide? And what if your Tata Coffee tea estate was in that place? So unless we all collectively heal the earth through all these micro steps, this situation is not going to be saved. Now I will tell you something about this phraseology scope 1, 2, 3. Scope 1, 2, 3, strictly speaking, applies only to emissions. But people have started using it conversationally. I want to know how much my supplier is consuming water for making this fabric which he's selling me. Basically, my scope 3, So scope 3 has started to mean everything that a supplier and a customer does. Suppose if I'm an airline or a shipping industry, my value chain, yes, correct. It is from fuel, it is from containers, it is from ocean environment. Here is the trillion-dollar question. Is the framework specific to industry available in BRSR? The answer is capital N, capital O, no. BRSR asks about materiality in one particular place. Where is that materiality question? That materiality question is over here. One sec. Let me go to the materiality question in BRSR. Even though we are the innovators of the product, I like the product because it immediately helps me go look into materiality. Where is materiality? Grr, here. A726 materiality. It asks you the materiality question. Okay? But it does not change what you have to report based on your answer. And there is the limitation of the BRSR in big bold letters. So you do a materiality analysis, then does BRSR say, okay, therefore for you, these 13 questions don't apply, those 12 questions apply? It doesn't. Perfect, beautiful question. I love your question. And by the way, sir, for shipping industry, let me tell you, shipping uses the fuel which nobody else can use. So how is petroleum distilled? Fractional distillation, if you remember from school, class 9, 10, 8, whenever. The crude goes into the column. The thickest one is tar. That is what they use for the road. The lightest one is aviation fuel. And there are so many grades of petroleum product that come from the crude. And the one company in the world that makes all the things in this column and uses them downstream and makes so many petrochemical related products is Reliance Industries, Dhirubhai Ambani. We owe him a big salute. The world's single largest integrated petrochemical refinery means this. From aviation fuel, below tar, even thicker. When you open the nut at the bottom of the fractional distillation column, this thick, gooey sludge, which is a waste item, is the bunker fuel for shipping. And that is the dirtiest. As you go down, the dirtiest emissions are lower down the distillation column. And the cleanest possible fuels are upper there. And there is nothing in this column which is clean anyway. But amongst the dirty, the cleanest is on the top, the dirtiest. And the dirtiest goes into ships. And shipping industry started shifting from clunker. It's called clunker. They started shifting. The World Maritime Organization is working on bringing down the emissions from shipping. And green hydrogen may be the answer. Okay. So all the questions, so the answer to the story is now, all the questions that you ask yourself, look at serial number 1 down here, whatever is there in your BRSR format, throw it at your supplier and say comply or else. Get the data from him, integrate it into your report. And when you go to the customer, you are supposed to ask the customer. Now, if your customer is an industrial organization, this becomes a selling tool. If your customer is an end consumer, the story changes. Okay. How does the story change? It's serial number 7. The story changes by serial number 7. Okay. So my emissions, my work practices, my corporate governance, etc. I want the same things for my suppliers. And it's very serial number 3. And I want the same thing for my customers. I'm supplying not just automotive component. I'm supplying them the entire package. Yeah. And can I sell them? Okay, this is for third parties. Ignore it. Tesla is a very leading example because, electric vehicles bring down the bring down emissions, but they use electric batteries, which use a key ingredient called cobalt. How will you find this out unless you do full input analysis? And somewhere in a more technical session on value chain, I have done full bill of materials of Tesla. You have to take whichever company you're working on, you have to take the bill of materials. Each line item is supplied by whom? For each line item, what is the value chain? And for each supplier, what is the story? Then you find out that the battery contains cobalt. Cobalt is procured from Democratic Republic of Congo, where cobalt, being a low intensity radioactive substance, therefore it causes nuclear type radiation sickness. They use slave labor and child labor to mine the cobalt. And this Tesla, everyone is buying, saying it is, environmentally this, that, and the other. So now if you read Tesla's sustainability report, which is fatter than their annual report, he talks about developing technologies that eliminate cobalt in the battery cycle. That means anybody whose business is dependent on cobalt and he's a supplier to Tesla, Tesla is going to drop him like a hot potato the day he develops an alternative. This is the message I keep telling chartered accountants. Please tell your existing clients and make more billing from them. If you have any delivery to do, I am there to support you. Don't wait to educate your client. They will just run away to one of the big four consulting. The person whom you nurtured and brought up over a 20-year journey will leave you because he didn't hear about all these stories from you. Go sign him on first. We can always do the work. There are a lot of people to support you to finish your work. Then comes serial number 7, end producer responsibility, which is already there. Extended, not end. Extended producer responsibility. Okay. So extended producer responsibility requires that after the consumer consumes the product, you pick up the packaging, the leftovers, the whatevers, reclaim, recycle, reuse. The 3 R's, reclaim. First, reclaim. That has a cost. That is a huge cost. What if you are a phone manufacturer? So what the ESG evangelist will tell you is, you have 1 million stores all across the country to sell this. But when I asked you to put 1 million collection points, you talk to me about cost. From that massive profit that you're making, Mr. Apple, go and collect the phone back. Which phone? The one which is unserviceable, damaged, broken, whatever. Then you can maybe give it to an e-waste fellow or whatever. But some of these practices are quite old. So one of the ways in which extended producer responsibility becomes a cost-saving exercise, if the company goes into engineering the packaging. When I talked about engineering the packaging, somebody told me, why do toothpaste tubes come in cartons? I said, I don't think they come in cartons. But then I looked, yes, they do come in cartons. So is the carton really necessary? So somebody can do that kind of engineering. I don't know, anybody that uses a Gillette shaving blade would find, even if you buy 2 blades, because very expensive, 2 blades could be $700. There'll be 5 vacant slots. So that much plastic waste. These are the kind of issues in design, product design, you have to engineer it out. So there is, and when you engineer out excessive packaging, you're saving costs, direct benefit. Then moment you saved cost, your extended producer responsibility obligation came down. And so it looks very cute. And you can also do virtue signaling, which is to say in your store, you can put Unilever's waste collection box, all the waste generated by Unilever's products. Okay, I'll give you 1 rupee per whatever, you know, and you do a lot of virtue signaling, and people are like, such an environmentally conscious company, and share price up. Okay. For those of you who are wondering about share price up and sales up and all that, go on YouTube and see the life story of the company called Patagonia. And so these are the complexities with value chain. Every complexity is an opportunity. What are the input process output for a bank? The gentleman asked, so I can talk about this. Sir, the bank is a strange industry. Okay. The input is money, the output is also money. The person giving you the input money is a depositor. The person taking your output money is a borrower. From depositor to borrower, there is a transformational process, risk transformation. Depositor does not want to take any risk on the bank, but the borrower is fundamentally a risky party like Vijay Mallya. Then there is transaction processes. Then there is sales and service. Okay. All the people involved in this value chain, all the things involved in that value chain, risk transformation, transaction, sales and service, are people, locations, and infrastructure. For each of these items, people, location, infra, I can tag you to one line item, one data point, one metric in the BRSR report. Okay. But when we talk about the output of banking, one of the interesting things is financed emissions. How much emissions is the borrower generating? So there is something called the Net Zero Banking Alliance, which has a membership of 160 global banks. I don't know whether any Indian bank is part of it. But under Net Zero Banking Alliance, the commitment is I will force my customer to bring down his emission intensity. So when you are giving an emission intensity in your BRSR report, and in section 2, you're making forward-looking statements that you're going to bring down your emission intensity, your bank takes your forward-looking statement and says, totally my borrowers will bring down their emission intensity by such and such. And so that in 10 years, we will bring down our emissions, financed emissions, by so much. And this links to the question on finance. So if you look into the annual reports of companies like global banks like Bank Santander, they have committed that by 2030, they will cease all lending to coal-based power companies, to mining companies, to all the things that fit in the dirty list. And where have they promised to increase their financing? In Europe, they have something called the green list. It's called the EU taxonomy. That EU taxonomy has some reporting requirements, which are again opportunities for Indian chartered accountants. When you go into that green list, people like Bank Santander, under this Net Zero Banking Alliance, they are saying, I will stop financing to gray and dirty industries and maximize financing to green. So if everyone takes the same stance and you are in a green business, you will have huge number of banks wanting to lend to you. And we all know that if there are 10 banks in the reception wanting to lend to you, what will happen to the borrowing cost? Questions and answers. That is further to this. Okay, so you have to do full ESG for people, location, infra. In infra, servers are a very big consumer of emissions. Currently, I have not fully looked at the 2024 reports, but in the 2023 reports, I'm sorry to say Indian industry did not cover itself in glory. In the harassment against women place, I told you the maximum number of complaints is in 2 digits. The company is one of the largest employers in the country. Okay. And so in lots and lots of Indian IT companies or banks are saying we are green from the beginning. But the bank has more than 20,000 offices all over the country. Are you telling me every premises that you have is green? Why don't you just tell your landlords your building has to be green? Otherwise, I will vacate your property. All of them will become green. I'm not a very big fan. I'm going to be writing reports, but that will be only data. I can't say such things and then hope that a bank will become a client. Any further questions? Yes, there are a couple of questions. Let me pick it up from chat. In case of power generation company, how to report emission from captively consumed electricity, under which scope and how? If I am a power generation company and I am consuming electricity, it is my scope 1. Because my core business is generating power. Okay. So it opens a larger set of questions if there is a grid. For example, in India, you have solar and you're feeding into the grid. Then how does that work? So one way for industry to, that's a useful diversion. One way for industry to consider it is, I may be feeding so what happens is you get a net bill, right? You feed into the grid and they net charge you electricity so that your total electricity came down and therefore your emission intensity came down. If 30% if your energy is green, then only 70% goes into the denominator, into the numerator as emissions from electricity, and you become a positive energy intensity. You get a better energy intensity than the other guys in the industry. To what extent does one have to do value chain assessment, ESG maturity assessment, collecting data as per BSR, data based on materiality assessment? What else? You have to bring in your largest suppliers and give them a course on ESG. You can always call me, give them a course on ESG and tell them, look, buddy, this is the format I fill. How much of this format can you fill? So what I've done somewhere is I've created a preferred priority list for MSMEs, which are the more important areas. Ask them to complete the more important areas. Ask them to adopt better practices. Materiality assessment in Indian economy, it has some serious shortcomings. Okay. How can you calculate? No, you cannot calculate. The partner whom you have for measuring emissions, you have to send him and say, go calculate for that guy. Give me the bill. I will deduct it from the payment I'm making to that supplier. Or tell the supplier, get me the emissions. But please remember, we have to cover now assurance. So what is the problem with assurance? I read major international banks, I mean, world's largest, on what the auditor has signed off. The assertions made by the management in their sustainability report are the assertions of the management alone. It is not possible for us to comment on those assertions. Then in the concluding paragraph, to the extent we have had a look at this sustainability report, we don't see any reason to, what is the exact word he has used? We do not find any reason to question the materiality of any of the things disclosed herewith. Why? Because emissions will be measured by a technical guy. Can you ascertain that he has done it correctly? You can't. You can call a certification guy and you can tell him certify this measurement. So he'll certify the measurement. Then he'll give you a certified report. All that I as an auditor can sign off on, whatever he has mentioned over here as the emission, it is correctly transcribed into the sustainability report. I can't vouch for what this external verification agency has certified. I can point to you number of such data points where if it's technical, you better get somebody external to certify than rely on his certification. Today, folks are happily. So I get a lot of questions. Hey, you're saying this. Look at this company. It is India's top 10. Look at the auditor. He has signed. There are no assurance standards in place. So today we have limited assurance. Limited assurance is a sign off on limited number of data points or limited extent of verification of the data points. Today, third-party data verification. Is there an in internal audit? What happens? In concurrent audit, what happens? Is there any equivalent to concurrent audit for non-financial data? No way. Doesn't exist. And now wait. Watch the fun when in September the International Assurance Standard for Sustainability Reports is released. We are not based on international sustainability reporting standards. But our assurance standard is going to be based on. We have international accounting standards. We have international auditing standards. We follow Indian version of this. We follow Indian version of this. There is an international sustainability standards. We don't follow that. There's going to be an internationally sustainable standards assurance. And we're going to follow this. When we don't follow this, I don't know. It's all going to happen. Calculated value chain partners. Yes, you have to send the guy. In banks, even if they convert to accepting application as electronic instead of paper form. Yes, electronic receipt of applications is a great green initiative. Just be sure that that their server farm, that their data center is a green data center. They need to do that as well. There is now the concept of green data center. Any further questions? I hope I have shed enough light on the subject. I hope you found it beneficial. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for your patience with me. I'm available to the CA Institute and to chartered accountants to solve their problems in sustainability reporting and expanding their business at any time. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Now we request Anchit ji to just deliver the vote of thanks. Anchit, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone who contributed to the success of today's webinar on BSR core and value chain disclosures, challenges and solution for comprehensive reporting. First and foremost, a sincere thank you to our esteemed speaker, CA Sushil Sharma sir, for sharing his invaluable knowledge and expertise on the complexities of BRSR core and value chain disclosures. Your insights into the challenges and solutions have not only deepened our understanding but also empowered us to take meaningful steps toward more comprehensive and transparent ESG reporting. I would also like to express my gratitude to all the participants who actively engaged in today's discussion. Your thoughtful questions and shared perspectives added immense value to the conversation, making our webinar both dynamic and insightful. A special acknowledgement goes to the organizing team and support staff for their tireless efforts behind the scene. Your dedication and attention to detail ensured that this webinar ran smoothly and effectively. Finally, I want to personally thank the chairperson, Ma'am CA Shripriya Kumar, and Vice Chairman Sir CA Dr. Anuj Goyal Sir for their visionary leadership in conceptualizing and bringing this important webinar to fruition. Your commitment to advancing sustainability practices is truly inspiring. As we move forward, let's carry the lessons learned today into our ongoing efforts to enhance transparency, accountability, and sustainability in our business practices. Together, we have the power to drive meaningful change. Thank you all once again for your participation and contribution. Wishing you a great day ahead. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. To revisit today's discussion or catch up our few previous sessions, we encourage you to visit the ICI TV channel of Sustainability Reporting Standards Board, which you can easily find on Google. There you will be find a wealth of knowledge in the past sessions. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sushil sir. Thank you, Anchit sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.